I froze in the hallway, keys dangling from my trembling fingers. Those familiar hazel eyes, the same ones that had haunted me for years, were staring back at me, but they belonged to someone else entirely. My new neighbor wasn't just any beautiful woman moving in across the hall. She was Diana Parker, my ex-girlfriend's mother, and judging by her expression, she recognized me too. If you've ever had your past come crashing into your present in the most unexpected way, hit that like button and subscribe to hear more stories that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. James? Diana's voice carried the same melodic quality as her daughter's. I can't believe it's you. 5 years had passed since Melissa had shattered my heart, yet here I stood, face to face with the woman who had once welcomed me into their family home with open arms and homemade lasagna. The woman who had comforted me when Melissa and I had our first big fight. The woman who had hugged me goodbye on that final, terrible day. Diana, I managed, finding my voice. This is unexpected. She laughed, a warm, genuine sound that didn't match the awkwardness of our situation. That's putting it mildly. I never thought I'd see you again, especially not as my neighbor. The moving box in her arms looked heavy. Without thinking, I stepped forward. Let me help you with that. Our fingers brushed as I took the box, and an unexpected current passed between us. Diana was in her early 40s now, but time had been extraordinarily kind to her. The resemblance to Melissa was striking, the same high cheekbones and full lips, but there was a maturity, a quiet confidence that her daughter had lacked. Thank you, she said, tucking a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear. I have about 20 more in the car if you're offering. That's how I found myself spending my Saturday helping my ex's mother move into the apartment across from mine. With each trip up and down the stairs, the initial shock wore off, replaced by a comfortable familiarity that surprised me. So, Diana said as we unpacked kitchen boxes, what have you been up to these past 5 years? I told her about finishing my architecture degree, landing my first real job at a prestigious firm downtown, buying this apartment. I carefully avoided asking about Melissa. Diana seemed to sense my hesitation. She's in California now, she offered, unprompted. Got married last year to some tech entrepreneur. The news should have hurt more than it did. Instead, I felt a strange sense of closure. I'm happy for her, I said, and meant it. And what about you? Diana asked, her eyes meeting mine. Anyone special? I shook my head. Work keeps me busy. And the last relationship left some lasting impressions. Diana winced. She was young and foolish, James. We both know that. We were all young, I replied. Some of us were just more foolish than others. That made her laugh, and something in my chest loosened. We ordered pizza that night, sitting cross-legged on her living room floor surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. Diana told me about her divorce from Melissa's father 2 years ago, her decision to move back to the city, her new job as a literature professor at the university. To new beginnings, she said, raising her beer bottle to mine. To new beginnings, I echoed, trying to ignore how the lamplight caught the gold flecks in her hazel eyes. Over the next few weeks, Diana and I fell into an easy rhythm. Coffee in the mornings before work. The occasional shared dinner when our schedules aligned. She introduced me to obscure foreign films, I taught her how to make proper risotto. We were friends, nothing more, but I found myself looking forward to our encounters with an eagerness that both thrilled and terrified me. One night, I heard a crash from her apartment, followed by a string of colorful curses. I knocked on her door to find Diana standing on a chair, attempting to change a light bulb in her dining room fixture. My hero, she said when I offered to help, her smile making my heart skip. As I reached up to replace the bulb, I was acutely aware of her standing close behind me. The scent of her perfume, something floral and subtle, made it hard to concentrate. There, I said, screwing in the new bulb. Good as new. When I turned around, Diana was much closer than I'd expected. For a moment, we just looked at each other, the air between us charged with something I wasn't ready to name. "James," she said softly, "I think we need to talk about what's happening here." My mouth went dry. "What do you mean?" "Don't play dumb. It doesn't suit you." Her eyes held mine steadily. "There's something between us. I feel it. I think you do too." I stepped back, putting distance between us. "Diana, you're Melissa's mother." "Yes, and I'm also a woman who's been divorced for 2 years and is attracted to the kind, intelligent man who lives across the hall." She crossed her arms. "A man who, by the way, hasn't been with her daughter for 5 years. It's complicated," I insisted. "Only if we make it that way." She sighed. "Look, I'm not asking you to declare undying love. I'm just suggesting we acknowledge what's happening instead of tiptoeing around it." I ran a hand through my hair, conflicted. What would Melissa think? Diana's expression hardened slightly. "Melissa gave up any right to an opinion about your love life when she cheated on you with your roommate." The blunt reminder of how my relationship had ended hit like a physical blow. "That's not fair. Isn't it?" Diana challenged. "You were family to me, James. I watched her destroy you, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. And now, by some cosmic joke, we found each other again. Don't you think that means something?" I didn't have an answer. That night, I lay awake staring at my ceiling, thinking about Diana's words. About the way my heart raced when she was near. About the ethical implications of dating my ex's mother. About what my friends would say. About whether I was using Diana as some twisted form of revenge. The next morning, I knocked on her door with 2 cups of coffee and my heart in my throat. "I've been thinking," I said when she opened the door, still in her pajamas, hair adorably mussed from sleep. "A dangerous pastime," she quipped, accepting the coffee. "I want to try," I said simply. "Whatever this is between us. I want to see where it goes." The smile that bloomed across her face was worth every moment of doubt. We agreed to take things slowly. Our first official date was dinner at a small Italian restaurant downtown, far from any of our usual haunts. Diana wore a deep blue dress that made her eyes shine, and I couldn't take my gaze off her all evening. "You know," she said over dessert, "I always thought you were too good for Melissa." I nearly choked on my tiramisu. "What?" Diana shrugged, unapologetic. "Mothers know these things. You were steady, committed." She was still finding herself. "Finding herself in my roommate's bed, apparently," I muttered. Diana reached across the table, taking my hand. "I'm sorry for what she did to you. But selfishly, I can't be entirely sorry about how things turned out." Her touch sent warmth spreading through me. "Neither can I," I admitted. That night, standing at her door, I hesitated before leaning in to kiss her goodnight. It was gentle, questioning, until Diana's arms wrapped around my neck, deepening the kiss with an intensity that left me breathless. "Good night, James," she whispered against my lips before slipping inside her apartment, leaving me dazed in the hallway. Our relationship progressed naturally after that. We still maintained our separate lives, her with her teaching, me with my architectural projects, but our evenings and weekends became intertwined. Diana challenged me intellectually in ways Melissa never had. She had lived a full life, experienced joy and heartbreak, and emerged stronger for it. The first time we made love was on a rainy Sunday afternoon, thunder rolling outside her bedroom window. Afterward, lying in her arms, I felt a contentment I hadn't known was possible. "What are you thinking?" Diana asked, tracing patterns on my chest. "That I'm happy," I said honestly. "And a little terrified." She propped herself up on one elbow. "Of what?" "Of how this ends. Of what happens when Melissa finds out. Of whether people will understand." Diana's expression softened. "Some won't. Are you prepared for that?" I thought about it, then nodded. You're worth it. 3 months into our relationship, the inevitable happened. Diana's phone rang one Sunday morning as we were making breakfast together in my kitchen. Her face paled when she saw the caller ID. "It's Melissa," she said, looking at me with wide eyes. I nodded encouragingly. "You should answer." Diana took a deep breath and accepted the call. "Hi, sweetheart," she said, her voice remarkably steady. I could hear Melissa's voice, tinny through the speaker, but couldn't make out her words. Diana's responses were measured, careful. "Yes, I'm settled in. The new job is wonderful. Actually, there is something I wanted to tell you." She looked at me, a question in her eyes. I nodded again. "I've been seeing someone," Diana continued. "Someone who makes me very happy." A pause. "Well, that's the thing, honey. You actually know him." Another pause. "It's James. James Mitchell." The explosion from the other end of the line was loud enough that I could hear it clearly. Diana winced, holding the phone away from her ear. "Melissa, calm down," she said firmly when the tirade subsided. "You've been married for a year. You left James 5 years ago. You don't get to dictate who either of us sees." She listened for a moment. "No, it's not about getting back at you. It just happened." Another pause. "I'm sorry you feel that way. When you're ready to talk about this rationally, call me back." She ended the call and set the phone down with shaking hands. "That went well," I said dryly, trying to lighten the mood. Diana gave a weak laugh. "She called me a cradle robber and you an opportunistic bastard." I wrapped my arms around her. "We knew this wouldn't be easy." "Is it worth it?" she asked, vulnerability in her eyes. "All this drama?" I kissed her forehead. "Every second." The fallout continued over the next few weeks. Melissa called Diana's sister, who called their mother, who called Diana to express her disapproval. My best friend Mark was supportive but confused. "Dude, of all the women in the city, you had to pick your ex's mom?" "I didn't pick her," I tried to explain. "It just happened." The only person who seemed genuinely happy for us was Diana's colleague, Elena, who took one look at us together at a faculty dinner and declared, "Now this makes sense." 6 months into our relationship, Diana and I were having dinner at her apartment when she suddenly grew serious. "I need to ask you something," she said, setting down her fork. My stomach tightened. "That sounds ominous." "It's not, I promise." She took a deep breath. "Melissa is coming to town next weekend. Her husband has a conference here. She wants to see me." I nodded slowly. "That's good, right? That she's reaching out? She wants to meet you too. Both of us. Together." The prospect of facing Melissa after all this time, with her mother as my girlfriend, was daunting. "Are you sure that's a good idea?" Diana reached for my hand. "No, but I think it's necessary. For all of us to move forward." I agreed, though anxiety gnawed at me all week. The night before the meeting, I barely slept, imagining all the ways it could go wrong. We met at a neutral location, a busy cafe downtown. Diana and I arrived first, claiming a table in the corner. When Melissa walked in with her husband, a tall man with glasses and a kind face, my heart hammered against my ribs. 5 years had changed her. She looked more polished, more confident, her hair shorter and her style more sophisticated. But when our eyes met, I felt nothing. No lingering pain, no residual attraction. Just the distant recognition of someone I used to know. "Mom," Melissa said, hugging Diana stiffly before turning to me. "James." "Melissa," I replied, shaking her hand formally. "This is surreal." A ghost of a smile crossed her face. "You could say that." Her husband, David, was surprisingly friendly, seemingly unfazed by the awkward dynamics. We ordered coffee, making stilted small talk about their life in California, Diana's teaching position, my recent promotion. Finally, Melissa set down her cup with deliberate care. "So, you too. How did this happen?" Diana and I exchanged glances. "We're neighbors," I explained. "It was coincidence." "Coincidence," Melissa repeated skeptically. "And it never occurred to either of you that this might be inappropriate?" Diana's spine straightened. "Melissa, you're my daughter and I love you, but you don't get to decide who I date. He's my ex-boyfriend. From 5 years ago," I pointed out. "You're married now." David placed a calming hand on Melissa's arm. "Honey, remember what we talked about." Melissa took a deep breath. "I'm trying to understand. It's just weird." "Life is weird," Diana said softly. "Sometimes the most unexpected things turn out to be exactly what we need." The tension gradually eased as we continued talking. By the end of the hour, Melissa had moved from hostile to reluctantly accepting. As we prepared to leave, she pulled me aside. "Are you happy?" she asked bluntly. "Really happy?" I looked over at Diana, who was chatting with David. "Happier than I ever thought possible." Melissa studied my face, then nodded. "Good. She deserves that." A pause. "You both do." It wasn't a blessing, exactly, but it was a start. That night, as Diana and I walked home hand in hand, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. "That went better than expected," I said. Diana squeezed my hand. "It did. Thank you for doing that." "For you? Anything." We stopped walking, and I turned to face her under the glow of a streetlight. "I love you, Diana. Not because of Melissa, not in spite of her. Just you, for exactly who you are." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "I love you too, James. More than I thought possible at this stage of my life." 1 year after Diana moved in across the hall, I asked her to move in with me. 6 months after that, on a weekend trip to the coast, I proposed on the beach at sunset. When she said yes, tears streaming down her face, I knew that sometimes life's strangest detours lead us exactly where we're meant to be. Melissa was a bridesmaid at our wedding. It raised a few eyebrows, but by then, most people had accepted our unconventional love story. As Diana and I shared our first dance as husband and wife, I caught Melissa's eye across the room. She raised her glass in a silent toast, and I nodded in acknowledgement. Sometimes the most beautiful beginnings come from unexpected places. Sometimes the person you're meant to love has been in your life all along, just waiting for the right moment to step from the background into focus. And sometimes, the most complicated situations lead to the simplest truths. Love, when it's real, is worth every obstacle. If this story touched your heart, please like this video and subscribe to hear more tales of love found in the most unexpected places. Remember, life rarely follows a straight path. It's the twists and turns that make the journey worthwhile.